You've covered every possible topic on your website, and ChatGPT still ignores you. Okay, today I want to go over this article written by Jason Barnard, which builds on a lot of the foundational work from my friend and yours, Nick Korai. I won't pronounce his surname. So what Jason's doing here is he's taking that solid base around topical authority and extending it out. He's filling it in the gap that explains why some content gets picked by AI systems and some content just simply doesn't, even when both look equally strong. So me and you have been to loads of talks where they've covered topical authority. I think it's a relatively easy concept to understand, but it can be somewhat overcomplicated.
I think we should start by telling a bit about Jason Barnard, because he is, I think, like the complete expert on entities. So he's maybe the one person who's specialized in this in Google entities. We've seen him speak as well in Saigon. I've chatted with him a bit about this, and no one has ever gone as deep on a topic as he has gone on entities. So
he's really covered the topical authority on entities, hasn't he?
100%. Yeah. Okay, so what is the point here? Just that you can cover every topic, but that's not alone enough to get recommended?
Well, the core idea is pretty straightforward. It's saying that topical authority explains what you've built. It shows you understand the topic, but AI systems don't reward content just simply because that content exists. They need to run a selection process. So multiple sources can be accurate, comprehensive, really well structured, but the system still has to choose one that it's going to use and recommend. And that choice isn't based purely on the quality of the actual content. And we've seen this in the results anyway. It's based on additional signals that most people aren't factoring in, which I think is really, really interesting. And also it's almost like we know that Google will use content, but it's one of its biggest driving signals is links, isn't it? So that's how it's able to trust a piece of content outside of just the quality of the content. Like you could have a website that's got zero authority, it's brand new, it could have produced 1,000 pieces of the best written content on the planet, but if it's got no links, which is Google's trust signal, then Google isn't going to surface it. But the LLMs, they're not using links the way that Google is, and therefore you could cover a topic in its totality, but you're still not getting recommended.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah, and I think this, if you're not familiar, this comes from SEO, the SEO strategy. Mm-hmm. Topical authority is saying that Google wants to cover experts. So if your site is about cats and you suddenly write an article about dogs, you don't have any topical authority. And so the idea is that you need to cover every single topic within your space. And then it goes really deep too. So if you write about cat toys and then all of a sudden you write an article about cat food, you don't have topical authority even on that. So it can go pretty deep. Now in SEO, it is sort of the same thing. The way you can get traffic in SEO with this strategy is you cover really low competition keywords. So if you cover something nobody else is covering, yeah, you're going to rank for that. But still, once you get to those more competitive terms, it's the same thing. You have to have authority to rank. But with SEO, it is an important strategy of cover all the topics that an expert would be expected to cover in that niche.
Yeah, well said. So this article says instead of stopping at topical authority, it's going to introduces the idea of topical ownership. And this is the difference between being eligible and being selected. So it's built on, they've made this pretty cool 3x3 model, which you can see now. 9 cells in total, and 3 rows that represent how, and don't forget, this is just theory, but they represent how Jason, who's built on the work of Korai, how they believe AI systems evaluate and compare sources. So we have coverage architecture, and position, and you need all three to be working like together in harmony or symphony. Strength in one area alone doesn't make up for weaknesses in another. So it's almost just like it's never ending in the work that you got to do, isn't it? But anyway, the first row is coverage. So this is what most people focus on already. Depth, breadth, and original thought. And this is where I think Koray and a lot of the presentations that we've seen Koray speak at, this is sort of his bread and butter, isn't it? That breadth and depth of content.
Yeah, 100%. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've covered that one. You cover every single topic. Now, what's the other components?
Okay, so this is where you go deep enough that nothing important is missing. So this is like what you were saying. Don't just write 2 articles on cat food. You need to write every single possible angle or everything around every possible topic around cat food. Like, don't write 2 articles on cat food and then move on to dog food, because you haven't got topical dominance on even cat food, and therefore you can't even begin to start on dog food. You cover related subtopics, so the system understands the full landscape, and then you bring something new. And that last part is really, really critical. If your content just repeats what already exists, then it becomes interchangeable. And I think that's pretty interesting. Once that happens, you lose your edge. Your edge. Original thought gives the system a reason to keep coming back and to cite you specifically. So I guess original data and like original thinking and original ideas, would that be where?
Yeah, 100%. So what comes to mind is this is very obvious in a lot of spaces. Like if you're a SaaS tool, you've collect lots of data. You've got lots of things you can talk about. If you're a realtor, you can talk about the data for your market, right? So there's usually pretty obvious things, but we worked with this site, I want to say it was like 2 years ago. And they were in the like mattress review space, which is, if you're not familiar with the affiliate space, it probably seems like a weird one, but it's actually a very good space to be in. Mm-hmm. And they would actually go out. They had this machine they bought that measured vibration, and they would actually put it on the beds and jump up and down, not jump up and down, but move around and see the movement. And so they would collect unique data around this topic that, most people wouldn't have thought. Most people, if they're going to review something like that, they're like, it's an 8 out of 10 in firmness. It's comfortable. It's not, you know what I mean? Like, but they actually went a step further. And this is, I think, what you need to be doing, even if it's less obvious in your space. What kind of data makes sense? What kind of data can you collect? If you're already collecting data, it's a no-brainer to start publishing studies.
Yeah, and we can see that the LLMs, they love that freshness of data as well, don't they? Like,
yeah,
you could search like a low competition topic in Google, and on the first page of their results, you could see a study from like 10 years ago that's like hanging around. We've discussed zombie content in a previous episode. It's got that feel to it of like, where you just don't see that in LLMs, unless that is the most recent and authoritative study. It's like it's pulling from like the latest stuff that it can find and trust.
Yeah, because when you ask for a recommendation, it's looking for that kind of data. It's looking for statistics. It wants to see, if you ask, like, I'm looking for, I'll go to the mattress one, then I'll move on from this example. But if you're saying like describing back problems you have, and the exact sort of firmness you look for, it's not looking for someone's review. It will use this, but it wants more than just someone saying it feels firm. It needs that, like, here's how it stacks up against the other ones. And you'll see this as you do research in ChatGPT or other LLMs. You will see this across the board of it finding finding data sets and citing those specific statistics.
Okay, that's great. That gives you a place to start to achieve that first row, isn't it? So moving on to the second row, which is architecture. This is how your content is structured and then understood. So it includes topical map, which we're familiar with. If those that are not familiar with the topical map, Nick, do you want to use your mattress example?
Yeah, it's just a map that like maps out all of your content. I can't really use the verb. Can't use the word in the definition, can you? But I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Yeah. It just maps out your content.
Yeah. Anyone that's seen one of those like visual mapping tools on
like
the web where fans out. Yeah. So we have the topical map. Then we also have internal linking and semantic flow. And this is bordering onto the stuff that becomes a little bit less comprehensible and easy to understand, I think. But in simple terms, it's how clearly your content communicates meaning to a machine. So you could have really strong coverage, but if the structure is messy or disconnected, then the system struggles to extract value. So architecture makes your content usable, and it turns the information into something that AI can reliably process and retrieve. And I think that does make perfect sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, in my opinion, some of this is more relevant to like very large sites where that does matter, because I think for anyone who's set through some of these talks, there's so many people who come away and they're like, I've never heard of any of that. My site ranks really well. So it's very relevant for like really large sites. If you're a medical clinic, like, and you've got 50 posts, 50 pages on your website, it's less relevant. So just a caveat there. That
the other caveat I would give as well is I'm seeing less and less things to do with structure that really do matter to LLMs. Like when we first came out, it was when we first started diving into this, it seemed that things like schema and potentially LLMS.txt files, content chunking. And yet I've seen people run tests where even things like they've put like addresses in JSON files rather than schema, and it can easily understand and interpret the information.
Yeah, some of this is just like, is it hard to implement? The whole debate around the sitemaps. Like, is it hard? If it takes a couple minutes, just do it. Maybe it doesn't do anything, but you might as well, right? Yeah. Because if it does, that 5 minutes is well worth it.
Yeah. Okay. Agreed. Okay. Right. Final row, third row, and this is position. So this is where most of the leverage now sits. So it's not necessarily about the content itself. It's about the entity behind it. 3 parts again. Temporal position, which is about being first. Hierarchical position, which is about being recognized by others as a leading voice. And narrative position, which is about being the reference point people cite when they talk about the topic. And this makes me think of 2 words: total authority.
Yeah, so a couple of things there. I think like one of those, I think it was the second one, that just seems like it maps perfectly to like listicles. It's like if in your space, ChatGPT or the other models they're looking for the best this for that, and they're finding that content someone's like written an exact post on that. And I think this is a strategy that's going to maybe not go away, but change like pretty soon, where we stop having like these low authority blog posts writing content that does influence the models. We've talked about that a lot, but the other one sounds more like if you're creating those unique data sets, and you're starting to get maybe press coverage, and you're starting to get sites like actually referencing your data. That's where that last one seems to come in. Okay, what was the title for box 3 on the last row? The
title for the actual row, position. So we got
the number 3 in that row.
The narrative, third party built.
Yes. Yeah. So that, I think that's what that is. It's like if you're saying like, I've noticed this trend. So like yesterday I saw an article about reservation hijacking, like where people were hacking into like booking.com and these other platforms, and then they get their information, and then they're able to like actually call and pretend they're the hotel. So the security firm who spotted this like dubbed it reservation hijacking, and then they come up with a study of like how prevalent it was. And now like as the news companies are covering this, they're referencing that data and that company that did the study and put that together. And so that's how I think that one works, is you start to get recognized for the data and for the information you're putting out.
Yeah, that's super. Were they stealing reservations then? Like,
No,
booking themselves?
Yeah, they would see like, oh, Chris has a booking at this hotel in this city on this date, and then they would call you pretending to be that hotel. And they had all the information. I see you're staying on this date and this date. Like, we need you to make the deposit, and so it seemed very legitimate.
Okay, that's
quite
pretty
a good scam.
Yeah. Okay, so to sum up, then I would say that this is a really interesting article, and Jason Barnard does some fantastic work. Topical ownership requires all 9 of the cells and all 3 rows, according to his research. I think it makes sense. I think some are probably more important than others, and I think for smaller brands, it's going to be exactly what you said, Nick. Like, where is the least amount of effort for the most amount of ROI? Don't break your back like redesigning the structure of your site, but try and achieve some of these things which make sense just on a simple level of achieving authority in your space.